today we are going to be starting and spending some time talking about low and no cost resources. This was kind of interesting because often we talk about like low tech, and this time we decided we were going to spend some time looking at some of the resources that we can use that actually don't have costs associated with them or are very low cost tools. Because sometimes when we start thinking about assistive technology, it's really easy to start thinking about the costs involved and how expensive things can be. And while many things are, there are also some resources that are low and no cost. We do have the link up here on the screen for you if you'd like a copy of the presentation today. We filled it with lots of examples and pictures and links and things like that. And if you don't get it now, we do have this link a few different times in the presentation, and we can also throw it into chat. So my name is Cassie Frost. If you have not met me before, hi. I am an assistive technology professional. I have about 15 years in special education background. Prior to that, working primarily with emotional and behavioral disabilities. I'm part of the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Advisory Council, the president-elect for the Wisconsin CEC, and an ISTE certified educator. And you can find me presenting here locally, state, wherever, random place that I can pop up.
My name is Jennifer Schubring. I'm a speech language pathologist who has expertise in augmentative and alternative communication. And I also provide assistive technology support to the Green Bay Area Public School District. And I have a private practice building AAC. And I, like Cassie, present quite a bit locally and throughout our state and nationally. So our objectives for today are for participants to be able to identify at least 3 low or no cost tools to support the students in your classrooms. You will be able to describe at least 3 or low or no additional cost features that are available on technologies that students are already using. And participants will be able to identify locations to readily access low and no cost AT tools. Before we go on, I'm curious, we've got a group of people that I'm not super familiar with and maybe hasn't come to some of these AT Forward meetings. Feel free to throw in the chat what your background is, because as Cassie and I are talking, we can kind of tailor some of what we maybe spend a little bit more time on to some of the experiences that you guys have. And we welcome your comments during the presentation. And if you know of any tools or have worked with things that students have really been engaged with, feel free to share those with the group in the chat.
And we will attempt to monitor chat as well and participate from there. We will keep kind of watching the chat. If you keep introducing yourselves, we'll kind of get started and then go back in there a little bit. So when we were trying to figure out how we were going to break this up, because there is a lot of low and no cost technology and assistive tech tools, and trying to find a way to split it up was kind of interesting. So we ended up coming up with this huge list of resources, and then kind of figured out that a lot of these are kind of broke up by where you can find them. So this doesn't mean that you're only going to find these things here, but we kind of broke them up by category of where they're easy to locate. So our first category is found at your desk. So this category was things that we often find right on our very desk. And the very first one, of course, is Post-it notes. I think it's really cute that Jennifer pulled them up at the same time. It's almost like we had it planned, but we did not. We just all have Post-it notes laying around. So sticky notes are great because we can use them to highlight important information. They can draw attention to specific locations, either around the room or on a piece of paper. Obviously, notes and reminders are phenomenal. And then you can also mask, you can cover distractions, you can color code, you can do all sorts of really cool things. And then as a bonus, more and more, there are unique Post-it notes coming out there. So you can get different colors. I personally love the ones that have lines. And then if you have time, you can even go wild and crazy here.
Yeah, so some really cool things that you can do with sticky notes, post-it notes, whatever you want to call them, is you can actually use a template. You can print them in your own printer. So there's templates where you stick them onto like certain locations. So you print out that template, you put your sticky notes on there, and then you're able to send it through your printer. So you can make customized just all sorts of different customized post-it notes. And so, it's really sort of only limited by sort of the ideas that you can come up with. These were a few that I had found. And so like even editing marks, if you have a student that can't remember what those are as they're editing their paper, I thought this one on transitions was really cool. So as students are maybe working on those transition words and putting them into their writing, a way to have them all written down. And it can even become UDL. So these are things that you can give to all students really easily, or it can be something that maybe you just give to specific students that might need that additional support. And really any level of student can use these. Today, I feel, how easy would it be to circle that? Again, we're really only limited by our own, the amount of ideas that we have. So some different ideas: a personalized note, a reminder note, a to-do list, I feel, what the goal is, Bitmoji sticky notes, or print images from resources like Boardmaker or lesson pics you could put on there if you have students that possibly may need some visual supports with some symbols, group roles, editing marks, transition words. You can even print QR codes. So if there is something that you want that student going to on their student Chromebook or their iPad, you can have that printed out as a QR code in order for them to get to that website without actually having to type in that web address. And then another really cool thing that a lot of people may not know is that you can digitize and save your sticky notes with the Post-it app. So there's an iPad app that will help you save them. But you can also just use this, you could take a picture of it and put it into your Google Doc or something like that too. So there's lots of different ideas for you to even digitize those and keep those sticky notes. Because if you're like me, I don't know what Cassie's desk looks like, but I have a million sticky notes all over the place. I also have piles of sticky notes. And so sometimes it's hard to even keep the sticky notes organized. So by digitizing those and organizing them in that way, that can be helpful as well.
This was a really good time to call me out because I actually don't have any right now.
Ooh.
Mainly because my desk got really, really, really bad because I was catching up after being out sick for a week. And so my desk got really bad for like a week and I just finally cleaned them all off. So like right at this moment, I have none. By tomorrow, that'll be different.
So Kathy, what is Sprocket printers? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, they're just little small printers that you can purchase. We purchased them, quite a few of them, for our AT library. I loved them because you could use your cell phone and all you need to do is it Bluetooths the picture to them and it prints it immediately, but it prints it on this nice little paper that's got like a stickiness to them. So like if I needed, like say for example, a paraprofessional was absent and I have a new paraprofessional in the group and I had a student who needed a visual instantaneously, I loved it. And then thank you, Jeanette, for putting that in. That's wonderful. But yeah, they're just a great little thing. I use mine constantly in my classroom because sometimes you just need a visual and you need it quick. And who has time to run to a printer?
So does that have to, you have to plug your phone into it, or is it Wi-Fi, or is it?
It's Bluetooth.
Ooh.
It's just Bluetooth. So it's just real small. They're not expensive, it's just a beautiful little thing. And like I said, because of that stickiness to it, it's just an awesome little thing. We bought several of them, threw them in the library. And like if you took a trip, like a field trip, they're great to have on a field trip because you could give kids instantaneous itty bitty little visuals that they may need.
Well, that just got added to my shopping list. Awesome. Thank you for that. We're going to go with the low, no cost. And all of a sudden, look at, I'm shopping.
Isn't that the truth? that, and I always get sucked into all the books that people share and the
yeah.
professional reading materials.
So we're gonna show the low and no cost, and whatever you guys put in the chat, we're gonna end up buying. So it won't be low, no cost for us. So keep sharing cool things.
So Genesis also said, I've used them for a system to help someone have a visual for turning a tablet on and off. Well, that's very practical. I like that idea. One of the next things that is available, if you have a Rocket book is like is basically reusable paper, and you write on it with erasable pens, and then all you have to do is use a piece of like a water on a cloth, and you wipe it down, and it erases all of the writing on there. So they're really nice, but there is a cost to Rocket books. But what some people may not know is you can actually, and then there's a QR code on that Rocket book, and it will, when you scan it with your phone in the app, it will automatically put it into like your Google Drive. And so when you're taking handwritten notes, it's a nice way again to make it digital. And so if you don't want to purchase a Rocket book, you can actually print out the paper and with the QR code on it, and then you can, and that paper is free that you print on, and then you can upload those to your drive. So that's another way for making that print handwritten type stuff digital.
And actually, if you haven't been to the Rocketbook page recently, I hadn't been to where you can print the free pages in quite a while. And they have just, if you click on the link in the little blue box, there are like so many templates now that I didn't know they had. They actually have coloring pages, they have graph paper, they have music paper. Like, I mean, goal agreements, for Pete's sakes. I mean, they have way more than I thought they did. And again, it's all free. So if you have things that your students are going to work on, and then, they want to make it digital, this is a great way to do that. And again, it's free.
You do have to, I think, have the app in order to make the QR code work. So then you link it to like your Drive account, and you're able to upload it right to your Drive then.
Yep, you do need the app, but again, the app is free. So the only cost with this would be the notebook if you go with the actual notebook, but because it's reusable.
And the pens that go with it, because you have to use a certain pen. But if you're doing it if you're printing the paper, then you can just use your normal pen, because you're going to dispose of the printed paper possibly if you're done with it.
I always forget about that because I have like the one-time use Rocket book, because I like the actual like feel of the paper. So I have the one-time use, so I don't need special pens for that one.
I was looking to see if they're not super expensive pens. I mean, I get them on Amazon for like $5. And I actually just like using the pens all the time because I'm not a super great speller. And so like if I make a mistake, yep, they're the Pilot Fiction pens. And I think they're great for even our students who maybe want to write in pen, but still need that ability to erase, because they do erase really, really well. They're not like back when I was a kid, they had the erasable pens. They're not like that. They're like, they actually erase nicely, and they look really great when you're just writing on a piece of paper.
Okay, the next thing we're talking about, again, something that can just easily be found on your desk, is the pencil grip. So a pencil grip is obviously used to make items easier to grasp, like your pencils, your pens, those things, but they can also be used for a variety of other things. A lot of pencil grips come in different shapes and different textures and different sizes, and that makes them a really handy fidget, especially if you have students that maybe don't want to have a more obvious fidget or something that's going to be more distracting. Being able to put those different pens, grips and things and textures on your pencil can really make a big difference. Obviously, the easier to grasp, but then also if you get a variety of colors, you can also use them if you have students that benefit from color coding, just because of the different colors, or if you have students that can identify things with different textures. So for example, if you're looking around and you're trying to figure out what color something is or which item you need, having different textures or different colors on them can really be helpful. And then I had to laugh at this one when we were going through, we're putting everything together and we get to the slide on visuals and it's our least visual slide. But as we're going through, this topic is so huge. Like I started pulling up pictures of visuals to put on the visual slide, and I really couldn't even decide what all to put on here because there's just so many. So one of the great things about visuals is they are a low cost or free tool. I mean, a lot of times it's just a piece of paper, but using paper or tag board or like Kathy said, that great little printer or Post-its to be able to provide a visual prompt for students or supports. So visuals can be labels, they can be signs, they can be checklists, they can be directions, they can be step-by-step of how to do something. Visuals can be so many things. They can also be things like photos or videos can count as a visual. And we all know that we have tools to make these pretty regularly, even if it's, I mean, a matter of a pen and a Post-it and writing something out. I think a lot of times these might get overlooked because we use them so regularly that we may forget that these are a really great assistive technology tool. They're easy to create, they're low cost, and they're something that can typically be made very rapidly.
And even how that's changed with like smartphones, a lot of my visuals now might be just a picture on my phone that I pull up, or maybe it's using my notes app on my phone to keep track of different things, or you know, even like your calendar is a visual, right? And we all have our own calendar organized in different ways. You know, like I have like multiple calendars and they're all color coded. So there's lots of different visuals, not just, you know, our low tech visuals, but we also now are using a lot more high tech visuals as the cost of those high tech things is a little bit more attainable. So, and our technology changes. What are some visuals that you guys use a lot? Feel free to throw those in the chat. Are there any, is there anything, any resources, anything that has been really helpful to you guys?
You know, as people are putting that in chat, I think one of the things that's been really interesting from even an executive functioning standpoint, as we've had students and ourselves working and learning from different environments, you know, a lot of times the visuals we take for granted that we see on our desks or we see on our walls. And suddenly when you're in a different environment, that looks very different. And I see someone, Genesis, I have washi tape checklists. I love that. What do washi tape checklists look like? Oh, see, there we go. I knew she'd have a link ready to go there. Cool. I'm going to check that out because I know I love washi tape, but I don't know that I've ever seen a checklist with it.
Another thing that we all have on our desks are highlighters. I should be more prepared for this presentation, but they're literally right next to me. I have an entire cup full of different colored highlighters, different thicknesses, and we use these in a lot of different ways to draw attention to items, to track what's been done, color code tasks or items. And the other thing that's really cool, and I think I probably have these in my desk here somewhere, is they make erasable highlighters as well. So these are, there we go. I hold them right in front of me. Sometimes you can see them. These are some erasable highlighters. Again, so you don't have that anxiety with students who might make a mistake. You know, I have a perfectionist daughter who is pretty young yet, but yet if she's writing in pen or if she were to be highlighting something and it didn't quite go as expected, that would really throw her off. So sometimes just even having those erasable pens, those erasable highlighters can be really important. And then I remember way back, do you guys remember, what was it, the Onion Mountain catalogs and kits, Kathy? And they always came with highlighter tape and you could get the highlighter tape. I feel like we don't use that quite as much anymore. Does anybody still use the highlighter tape with their students?
I know Stephanie just said in chat that she uses color tape. So I'm not sure if that's the same. I know that's what I was thinking when she said that was the highlighting tape.
And that was nice because you could take the highlighting tape off and it was repositionable a little bit. And, you know, for some students who maybe just couldn't handle a highlighter, it was a nice option. And now, I mean, we don't have it on this slide, but now there's a lot of electronic ways again to highlight. So I actually prefer all of my reading material in an app. So I get PDFs of everything I read now, and I have my Apple Pencil, and I prefer to highlight and keep everything digitized because you can't see my office for a reason. Sometimes it gets too cluttered and busy. And so it's nice just to keep all of that in electronic format. So we have a lot of students that are using those tools in either extensions in Chrome or like Read and Write for Google has highlighting. A lot of different apps and programs offer highlighting now.
Okay, so just like we were talking about visuals, we kind of felt like this one, earned itself its own slide. So not only visuals for things like checklists and prompts and all of those things, but schedules and planners can be one of those things that we kind of take for granted. We're used to seeing calendars on the wall, we're used to seeing planners, but as things are getting more and more digital, it can be really easy to forget all of the benefit of simple planners. So these can be hand-drawn, they can be printed, they can be downloaded. Calendars, I see that there's a link there for Slides Mania. I love that it got added in as a link. And these are some really great digital resources that you can use for calendars in addition to printing.
And what I like about these is that if you share these Google Slides with a student and you have supports on here, other students may not even know those supports that you're offering. So if there is a lesson and the student and the teacher is presenting a lot of verbal material and you have a student that possibly needs more visual supports, or they need that text broken down and they need a video, you can embed those supports and those links into these slides. So maybe you have a Tuesday slide and then there's multiple Tuesday slides, or with different classes with different supports in there. So it's just a nice way to provide some of that additional stuff. I think you can also use these where students can comment. So if they need support with something, maybe it's their schedule and they can make a comment and tag you in it saying, hey, Miss Frost, I need some help with my math. When are you available? And that's going to get emailed directly to you. So there's some back channel chat features just even embedded within these Google Slides, where if you're using them as a planner for a student, maybe like a cross-categorical student that just maybe has some learning disabilities, this could be a really rich tool for them. They also have, just even using these things with students. So you might have some of this up. A teacher may be providing some of these more visual options. So everything's not that auditory output of we're going to do this, this, and this in class today, but they pull up, their planner and, maybe have some images here to help break down any sort of learning that just might be confusing for students. So Slides Mania has quite a few different educational resources, so definitely check those out.
And I love that Slide Mania is really giving you that digital version of calendars and planners. And as I'm looking at those, I'm thinking, some of those might be really great to print off and have a hard copy as well, but they might not fit as well. And that's where we can also look at tools like Canva. So if you haven't had a chance to use Canva yet, Canva is free for educators. And this is, if you want to make like cool looking schedules or planners for your students, but you're thinking, okay, I'm not a super, techie person. I'm not super creative. I really don't design well. Canva can provide all sorts of visuals and schedules and things, all with really easy templates. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it now. And then if we have time at the end, we're going to actually come back and play with it a little bit.
So there is a link on this slide for you to sign up for your free Educator Canva account. And they do have a lot of resources to help you. They have some nice little webinars and things that go through all of it. And I mean, this could be like a whole presentation just on its own. So we're just going to touch the brief surface if you haven't used Canva a lot. But they have a lot of different engaging things. So here's like a KWL chart. Here's just even a definite infographic of the parts of a fraction or the different types of fractions that can just be something you put in those Google Slides to help a student. And then even things like, what zone am I in? You can create some of these things. I like this comic strip one. Let's see if it opens up for me. Just thinking about some of those really hard concepts that you might be teaching at the secondary level, and how can I break that information down and simplify it for some of my students in an engaging way? Because it's all about engagement when we're thinking about that universal design for learning. How can we hook that learner in a way that makes sense to that student? So for our visual learners, being able to provide some of these images can be really helpful. And again, some of our kids really like that comic strip or more of those visual type stories. So.
And again, this looks really impressive. These visuals look like they're super amazing, something you had to buy, a poster. But again, with Canva, it's free to create. So if you keep it digitally, it's still free. If you print it off, it's the cost of paper and ink. So you can create.
The other thing with Canva that's really cool is that you can download it in multiple formats too. So you can download it as like a PNG image, and you can put that like in like Google Slides, or you could save it as a PDF. So there's lots of different formats for students to consume that resource as well.